Wow, the ATACMS strike on the Russian training facility far behind the front lines happened today. Tremendous success of Ukrainian intelligence, surveillance and the HIMARS unit's operators. Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Those are not the only good news in our today's review, but let's start from this one. Yeah, obviously good news for Ukraine, not for Russia, because they were just devastated in the place. Ukraine used the cluster munition warhead in ATACMS. I think the previous version of the ATACMS was used because Russian training facility was 88 kilometers away from the front lines. Judging on the smoke all around, those were clusters. And how do we know that it is the Russian shooting range? Well, basically that is why the total number of those dots is 116. Russians already confirmed that loss. And this is the place where it happened, 88 kilometers away in Luhansk Oblast. Probably those were the newcomers to the Russian army delivered from the Russian Federation to this local camp. Those Russian soldiers were going through their short training before being sent to the front lines. So less of the Russian soldiers will join the actual fight, causing losses for the Ukrainian side. The interesting thing that they were staying at the same spot for quite a long time, because ATACMS also needs to cover this distance, it's quite a long distance, in some period of time. But it was enough for ATACMS to hit the particular spot with the Russian soldiers, so Russian command still doesn't learn on its own mistakes. And believe me, it will continue to happen like that because Russian system, the system of the Russian army, is very volatile. We have already seen those accidents happening to the Russian soldiers well before, many of the times, and now it's the first time probably that Ukraine uses a big ATACMS missile against the Russian infantry. I think that it shows that definitely Ukraine has enough number of those missiles. And you know, actually cluster munitions are the most effective against the infantry and also against the Russian airplanes. So Ukraine used those ATACMS missiles to target the Russian airfields too. So we see 1, 2 and 3 of the strikes of the ATACMS. It means 3 of the missiles were used. I wonder if targeting those places was done for purpose, because only one ATACMS hit very precisely, and here the distance is quite long. We know that Russia can jam the GPS signal in some certain area. We have the reports about it from our Western partners. So for example, this article says that Excalibur shells lost in precision from 70% of the efficiency to just 6% because Russians adopted their electronic warfare system. I think that ATACMS missiles are also dependent on the GPS signal. Well, maybe ATACMS are also equipped with inertial reference systems like we have in the airplanes to navigate. But still it is not that precise compared to the GPS system. But judging on the very precise first strike, I think that Ukraine could have done it for a purpose, I mean dispersing the shells across the fields. Just to cover the wider area with those clusters, well, in this case I think that it is better to aim at the single spot, because 2 of the other strikes didn't cause any damages to Russians. And maybe few of 116 soldiers escaped this strike. The drone video was filmed from the distance, so it's hard to judge. By the way, I posted the full video of the drone on my Telegram channel. You may check my Telegram channel in a video description just below. There I post lots of the information about what is happening in Ukraine. All of the updates are going there at the first time. And also, my friends, if you want to support the job that I do on YouTube, you may join my Patreon team. Guys, thank you a lot for your kind support. Alright, more good news this time from Russia. Somehow Russian oil refinery facilities are just burning. No one knows why it happens, but Russian officials say that there are some of the drones flying in the Russian airspace targeting their facility. Oh my god, who could possibly do this? Do they need any help? It is strange that the Russian air defense is unable to cope with those attacks. Or maybe it is the job of the Russian air defense. After all, it happened in Ruzzian Oblast, by the way. Let's check out what the governor of that region says. During the night, air defense systems destroyed and intercepted 6 of the Ukrainian UAVs. One was intercepted over the territory of our Ruzzian region. According to the preliminary information, there were no any casualties. Investigation is ongoing. So actually it is the Russian air defense. The drones were intercepted with the help of the Russian oil refinery air defense facilities. I think that Russia must build more of those air defense systems, because this one was used for the second time. On 13th of March, this was already in operation. Drone hit this Russian oil refinery facility, and it is the second strike on it. So what was particularly hit in the place is the vacuum station. It is a very complicated one. Without that part of the Russian oil refinery, it is unable to continue its operation. And for the last 3 days, it's already a second strike on the Russian oil refineries. So Ukraine does really great job applying sanctions on the Russian oil. So if there was the pressure on Ukraine to stop those strikes from some of our allies, that pressure wasn't really significant for Ukraine to stop that operation. And I expect that we're gonna see many more news like that happening in the nearby future. And here's the part that was significantly damaged, so refinery is no go without it. The critical equipment of the Russian oil refineries is being produced in the Western countries. Now sanctions applied on Russia, so it is very hard for our enemy to restore those facilities. While Russia tries to respond on those strikes, launching Iskander missiles targeting Odessa city. For example, today one of the storages was targeted. It is the Nova Posta, so New Post, the company that is used by civilians to transport or sell the goods. They had a very big storage in Odessa, which was targeted, unfortunately. And luckily, there are no any casualties. It is not a military facility, again, no. You may compare it to Amazon storages, something like that. People are just sending their goods using New Post in a very quick manner. This is the Russian airfield in Jankoy. The difference between the images is 10 days. So it wasn't the strike on the apron, Russia just building there something. They created the pond. And now let's go to the military map review. We have some of the updates happening on the front lines. Well, at first let's use the deep state military map, but I'll change to the satellite image. And here Russia advances again in the Ocheretino region, and they went to Arkhangelsk already, so they're very fast. I predicted that they would assault this settlement from two of the sides, from this direction and from Ceramic, but from Ceramic they were much faster. Why? Because simply in this area there was 115th Brigade, which is not really that capable. So that Ukrainian brigade went to Arkhangelsk itself, and I predict that it will go out from this place using this road, and Russia will occupy Arkhangelsk maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Also, they will go to this place. Those are just some of the fields, and they will take this region under control, probably going to Kalinovo afterwards. So let's check the timeline for this region just for today. You can see a very big Russian advancement, and also according to my information, I know that Russia advanced also from Solovyovo towards Sokil village. And also they went closer to Novoalexandrovka, so again yesterday and today. Their goal is to occupy this village, occupy the next one, and after it cut the supplies for the Ukrainian army in this big region by taking this crossroad under control. But Ukraine has some of the defense lines, robust defense lines in this Vozdvizhenka village, so probably Russia will try to bypass it to the northwest and then go to the west. I'm not opening you any kind of the classified information. We have all of that information available publicly. So definitely Russia took the ground near Solovyovo and going to Oskil, so they have one more vector of attack. There is some of the Ukrainian defense, but Russians penetrate that quite easily. They already use ballistic missiles to attack the Sokil village, but at the same time Russia loses lots of the vehicles, we may see it. So even though they're able to capture some of the villages and settlements, they're now ambushed by Ukrainian FPV drones, artillery and other stuff. The 3D map is a little different, but here we also have the confirmation about the Russian advancement towards the Sokil village. It's over here, and the terrain is more or less flat in this area, just some of the valley over here, not a significant elevation change. And here let's go to the other Russian assault vector, to Novoalexandrovka. The terrain is also more or less flat. It goes through the valley, and there is the very important road for Ukrainian supplies. On this map we may see that Russia advanced towards Arkhangelsk village from Ocheretino. not from ceramic but on the previous map, but both of those maps are showing that Russia tries to occupy Arkhangelsk. And let's go to see the terrain difference. Well, here it's much bigger. You can see that Arkhangelsk is deep in the valley, and Russia now has superiority because they are occupying the higher ground. But if they would try to advance across those lakes and river, Ukraine would have the advantage in this case because of the higher ground. But again, defense of this area depends on 115th Brigade, which is not that capable. So I predict that Russia will finally occupy Arkhangelsk very soon. What worries me more, however, is the situation in Pervomaisk and Nevelsk. So we have the confirmation about this Russian attack towards south. Still, they're unable to cross this river, but the Ukrainian army near Nevelsk is under the huge risk of being encircled. I mean this part. I am telling about it for already very long time that Ukraine probably would need to retreat from this place. And let's check out the timeline. So it was yesterday and it is today. So Russia advances over here, expanding the bridgehead towards those fields. Yeah, I know that the group of Ukrainian army over here is probably small, but every life of a Ukrainian soldier is very, very important. So Ukrainian Army Command needs to think about how to withdraw our guys, because this is a very narrow bottleneck. Let's measure the distance, so it's really nothing less than a kilometer. So Russians may strike Ukrainians with everything they have. A very dangerous situation for Ukrainian soldiers deployed in this place. And now let's go to Chasiv Yar, Bakhmut direction. This is the Bakhmut city, where Russia has their attack towards the settlement. They were standstill with this advancement for a very long time, but now I can see the next move of the Russian army. Well, first of all, they managed to reach this river, and I think that they will try to cross it in this area. They're going to go to this forest, which might hide the movement of the Russian army. And here's the city. It's very, very close. It is going to be a direction of the major Russian strike on Chasiv Yar, but also they have one more strike vector. It goes directly towards the Chasiv Yar, this part of the city. So this is the major part of the city with industrial unit. In this area, there are some of the residential buildings, and also the part is the industrial one. So here Russia uses a Wagner type of the tactics. They have a direct strike to the most defended area, but at the same time they bypass it from the flank using the most capable forces. Here are mobilized soldiers, Russian ex-prisoners, and here are very capable and experienced Russian soldiers. So that is how they do it. Those are used not for the breakthrough, but to deflect the attention of the Ukrainian army, and this is the main strike direction. I believe that it will happen like that according to the logic. And according to the latest report, Russia definitely has some of the success advancing towards the Chasiv Yar. They use artillery shells, aviation, gliding bomb strikes, and many of the things. Ukraine uses artillery against the Russian advancement, but this time still Russia has many more resources compared to Ukraine. Russia again is experimenting with the new drone signal jammers. Here I can see a new type of the electronic warfare which they use on their old T-62M tanks. Why M? Because they have extra armor on a turret and also in the front part of the base. And what is very interesting that they use generators to feed those drone jammers. Kind of the interesting solutions for the Russian tanks. And this is also T-62 tank which was hit obviously. We may see the other type of the drone jammer, possibly some of the boxes on the top trying to hide the construction. Yeah, that is how the tanks are looking now in a modern day war. The absolute Mad Max. How drones might change the vehicles, right? Guys, I post some of the frontline or combat images just on my Telegram channel because this platform doesn't allow for me to post it over here. Sorry about it. Here I may just say that this is the Russian MTLB and it was attacked quite successfully by Ukrainian Bradley. I think you may understand what happened to this vehicle. Alright, new fetish for Russians. They put lots of the armored vehicles that they were able to capture from Ukrainian side, including the Abrams tank and Leopard, and they allow all of the Russians to visit the place and they are happy. They have some sort of the fetish towards the Western-made vehicles. Then the Russian war machines were shown in Kiev. It was understandable. Actually, Ukraine needed to tow those vehicles just a few of the kilometers from the previously occupied Kiev Oblast, but here Russia covered hundreds of the kilometers to deliver those vehicles to Moscow. So who is aggressor in this case? Here Russia uses those vehicles just for their propaganda purposes to show that they are fighting against all of the NATO. That's why they put the country flags on each unit. By the way, Russia broke down the barrels of Leopard tank and Abrams for them to look more miserable, again for the propaganda purposes. Well, I may understand it with Abrams tank because it's no-go, but Leopard was in a perfect condition. But Russians just broke the stabilizer of the gun. Alright, more news about F-16s. The spokesman of Ukrainian Air Force said that those will be delivered after Easter, so after 1 week. But he didn't mention the exact date, so after means after the particular date and so on. Could be a few months after Easter as well. He told about it to Ukrainian journalists, and actually I'm quite surprised why we have this data publicly. But at the same time, I may understand that Russian intelligence knows all of the information. It is impossible to hide that delivery from them. Well, I think that it might happen the next month, so in June. The Russian school kids and their pictures, it's crazy. Well, personally, I think that it is a crime. Some of my followers on Telegram channel say that it's some sort of the artificial intelligence corrected picture, but I think that the pictures are definitely real. However, I don't think that 10-year-old kids could have drawn that. Maybe their parents did it for them. One more image of the Russian school wall, and here are those pictures. Those are definitely crazy. So guys, just tell me in the comments whether you think that those images were photoshopped to this wall or not, because 100% those legit, those were drawn by adults, but the kids were used for whatever reason, probably Russian propaganda. It's crazy. Breaking news: major retailer Green advertises a new United States party. Would you vote for it? Let's go and see the advertisement.
Yeah, that's what this is. The Uniparty is Make Ukraine Great Again. The Uniparty is all about funding every single foreign war. They think this is the business model that needs to be done. There you go. Got that up there. Yeah, thank you.
Muga! Make Ukraine great again. Well, potentially it has more perspectives compared to MAGA. Now Taylor wants to impeach Mike Johnson for supporting Ukraine and for putting the bill for voting in Congress. Guys from the United States probably have the most pro-Russian politicians in your Congress. Well, some of them, just few, but they are so active. And I also wonder why does she have this opportunity to spread this circus all around the world. Yeah, freedom of speech you may say, but where is the line between freedom and propaganda? And now my friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot, really. And as usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.